Hello, hello. Thank you guys for tuning in. I am Shannon Shine, and this is about to be a turning point for the Awakening with the Girls podcast. We had started Awakening with the Girls, we as in me and my good friend Breezy Spread Love, who is still very much a part of it. However, I have decided that I think that the Awakening with the Girls podcast needs to be a space for many females, or those who orient or represent themselves as female. And this is going to be a safe space for all of us to just kind of come together, ask each other questions, and to have just conversation. I want this to be a zone where people feel safe to send questions our way, as well as reach out to me if you are a female that has been going through an awakening or has been through the awakening and you would like to share your journey. It has come to my attention how many of us truly feel or have felt alone or even crazy when we started diving deeper into our spiritual journey. And I think that's what Awakening with the Girls should really be about. It should be about the awakening from a feminine perspective and different things that we go through, having so many social standards and expectations. And I welcome anyone that resonates as a masculine energy to also tune in and to be able to get some good content and feedback back from this. Mainly, I called it Awakening with the Girls because I did want it to be a safe space for us to talk about girly things, like our moon cycles and emotions and situations that may be more feminine based. That being said, I have been welcoming more guests to kind of join me. So I am working on a series to share with all of you that really highlights the awakening journey for others. And gives everybody a chance to ask me questions about my awakening experience as well. So I welcome you to send us questions and to check out other podcasts on the Bring Me to Life network, because Bring Me to Life is all about awakening oneself and having a safe space to create a community, to make friends, and to just discuss spiritual topics and explore each other's journeys, to learn from each other. There's so many amazing things that I would like to just kind of babble about right now, but I think that I'm just going to leave it at that, and you will be hearing more of Breezy in upcoming episodes. But for now, it's just kind of time to explore others' journeys. So, in this episode, I am talking with a friend of mine who is kind of like an apprentice of sorts. She has been on her journey for a little while now, and it's just been really magical to see her grow and to see what kind of things she's exploring, because she's just getting into this journey where I've been on it for over 10 years now, basically in the spiritual community on and off throughout my whole life, as many of us have. But when I really started diving in to explore my spirituality was about 10 years ago, exactly where she's at right now. So we have a nice little gap of experiences here, and she teaches me so much every time we talk. And I think you will really love this conversation. And I am looking forward to having many more of her, both on this podcast and Shine On with Shannon, where you will also find some of these episodes featured. But I wanted the Awakening with the Girls podcast to, again, be a space for many females to share their journey, not just me, whoever, Shannon Shine, the energy I'm resonating as right now in this awakening life. So, all right, we're going to dive in. Thanks for being here, and you guys are awesome. Leave a comment in the Bring Me to Life community. Let me know what you think, or let me know if you know of a high vibe female that I should be getting in contact with. Here we go. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to Awakening with the Girls. Hello, Shannon Shine here. I'm super excited for this new episode. I am here with a good friend that I hope to have on many an upcoming episode. We are going to be doing what I like to call Moony and Me. My friend Moony's here. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your journey and who you are.
Okay, so I do go by Moony, and I actually sort of started getting into this more awakening journey about a year and a half ago, I would say. I was around 18. And it really all started whenever I went to my very first crystal shop with my sister. And it sort of took off from there because it just opened a doorway of curiosity for me. I'm already naturally curious, but being in that atmosphere and sort of opening my eyes to some of the more holistic things and approaches really piqued my curiosity and my interest. And from there, I just started asking questions to myself and then branching out and asking questions to people that I knew had answers or resources that I could find answers to. So, sort of going from there. And here I am a year and a half later, still asking questions and really interested to sort of dive deeper into everything. So,
I love that you like to ask questions because it gives me an opportunity to really think about why I enjoy the things I do about my awakening process. And it also gives me the ability to figure out how to articulate it clearly to others that I work with. So sometimes other people are not as open to asking questions or revealing that they don't know as much as they would like to about a certain topic. So the fact that you are learning is beautiful. And that's what I really wanted to do with any of my podcasts, whether it's Shine On with Shannon, Awakening with the Girls, or the Bring Me to Life podcast. We want to help people that are going through the awakening process and they don't know where to start, because I started my journey about 10 years ago and I was really into dreams and lucid dreaming, and I dived into crystals and I dove into meditation, and there were so many different things that I wanted to know all about right in that moment. And I realized if I knew all of the things right then and there, that would take away from the journey. And it's really cool to know that there's so much to learn, and I'm always learning. But I'm grateful to have you here to ask questions so I can hold space and hopefully share it with the audience too, and invite them to ask questions so that maybe you can even answer them from your perspective. So if anyone's listening, leave questions for both of us. And I would love to know what questions you have for me today.
yeah, well, I mean, I definitely, like you said, about wanting to learn all the things all at once, I definitely think that although I opened that doorway, it was and still is overwhelming because of just the vastness of information and knowledge out there. And really, I actually was just talking to a friend the other day, and they said they had heard a quote somewhere, or they always said with their one other friend how they're only living while they learn. Like as soon as they stop learning, it's like their life has pretty much ended because we just constantly are learning. There's just so much information out there for us to take in, and I think it's great to be able to ask questions, and I really think people should ask questions more because I think that's what life's about, is experiencing and learning. So
That's beautiful. And I love that you know that this early in your journey. So if you don't mind me asking, let's just kind of put it in perspective about how old are you right now? We're in 2020 in the middle of kind of chaos time, but like how old are you in this experience?
in the experience, or well, I'm 19. I'm going on 20 here in a couple months, but 19, still a
Okay.
little baby.
And I'm going on 29. So I've got exactly about a decade on you. But it doesn't feel like that, because when we conversate, you have such an old soul that you understand that learning is the key and the seed to life. So that's beautiful. I love that. And I love that you acknowledge that you're kind of a baby in the world, because I know a lot of 19 and 20-year-olds that think they know everything. And I was one of them. So until I kind of took a step into this journey and realized, like, I know basically nothing. I know enough to help lead others to the next beacon. But I love that you acknowledge that you are just kind of beginning this journey. So that is a beautiful part of you.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm really excited to keep going, but I do have some questions for you that I'm sure you're ready to dive into.
Yeah, we can dive into the questions. What's a topic that you're looking into right now?
Okay, so right now I am really curious about hypnotism because there's a lot of stigma around it.
Mm.
And I know that you also provide services for past life regression and hypnotherapy. So I thought that being able to talk to you about it would be a really great way for me to gain some knowledge and maybe even um, more questions that I can research later on, because I have no idea where to start. And you search hypnotism, and a lot of times you find something science fiction that comes up on Google. So it's really good to
Mm.
talk to somebody who actually has experience and can give me a bit of insight as opposed to going to talk to somebody and having them think that it's something that's fake. So,
or just somebody trying to kind of like sell something. I've been in that situation too, and it actually almost turned me off from wanting to dive deeper into it because I was worried that it was just kind of a salesy type thing. And that's why I don't necessarily promote my hypnotism as much, but it is something that I offer because to me it's more than even just the hypnosis. It's a pattern in the mind. So I'll start out with the first time I came into, I guess, contact or understanding of hypnotism. I was actually really young. My grandfather was a smoker. He wasn't a smoker like he smoked all the time, but he would respect my grandmother's wishes and he would go outside and smoke. But it got to a point that he had lung cancer and he didn't want to smoke anymore, but he didn't believe he had the personal willpower to stop. But he knew that it was something that he really wanted to try to do. So I have an aunt who had kind of is the same aunt who'd introduced me to crystals and like IFT tapping and things like that. She was just looking for all kinds of alternative methods to help our family because we've dealt with a lot of misunderstandings with general health systems. But anyway, so he wanted to try something different. And my aunt, I believe, talked him into hypnosis. And he didn't right away stop, but I noticed an instant change in him. It was almost like once he got back from the hypnosis experience, he understood why he wanted to do the things he did in a different way. And he would be willing to at least admit it to the point that he did eventually stop the smoking. So then I realized that it could be used as a tool. And I too kind of struggled with that thought or wonder of like, is this real? Is it a placebo? Like, what's actually happening here? There's so many questions I had. But I started diving into it because I personally started having a lot of dreams and what I believe to be flashbacks of past lives. And I didn't have people around me that necessarily understood or believed past lives on the extent that I felt I did at the time. And now I understand that there's so much more to it than that. But I believe that I have a decent understanding from my own perspective. Because here's the thing: hypnosis, past lives, reincarnation, multiple lifetimes, or even like they sometimes like twin flames and spirit splitting. There's many different ways to perceive it and how it works. But what works for me is learning through experience. So for somebody who's really questioning whether or not hypnosis is real, my suggestion to you is try it. Even if it's something that you're not sure how to dive into, there's lots of different people out there that do it. Find somebody that you resonate, whether that's me or somebody else that you've been drawn to. That's totally fine. I started diving into kind of a quantum healing version of it, as well as a past life healing version of it. Through it, I started with a meditation kind of just on YouTube where I would allow myself to kind of drift off into a downward count. And that allows your mind to open a subconscious portal that you don't normally access. So on day to day, let's just continue using my grandfather as an example. He was a smoker. On day to day, he would smoke and not think about why he needed that cigarette, like what was driving him to want to have that experience. And I've dealt with a couple other smokers since I've started my own practice. And what it has been for a lot of them is it's this need to have a different kind of fixation or a different kind of break. It's a mind break for them. So by going through the hypnosis process, I was able to kind of guide them to when they either first started smoking, which is oftentimes either with friends under pressure or under a need for a release of stress. Sometimes it releases some sort of stress for some people. It's like a habit reducing or a habit inducing chemical in the brain. So with hypnosis, what it allows you to do is go back to that beginning, whether that's in a past life, whether it's in this life, or whether it's even a time that you don't remember and you just feel the sensation of it. It's a lot of feeling and visual inner work. and allowing yourself to let go of what you think that you know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you had mentioned the quantum healing as well as the past life regression. Um,
Yes.
what exactly is quantum healing and how can it tie into other areas as opposed to just hypnotism?
Okay, so quantum healing is a very specific, it's kind of a name that was given by Dolores Cannon. And she originally started it, she was just going back into past lives. But what she realized through her practice was that you could go beyond just past lives and you could go through time and space. So she created another form of it that people could then use as distance healing, much like when they created, or when they first started using the Reiki technique, from my understanding, it was very hands-on. You had to lay your hands on the person you were working with. But over time, we began to realize as living beings that we can send this love, this healing, this ability to heal ourselves through the quantum, basically like quantum physics, quantum leaping, all of these, the ability to travel through time and space is what quantum healing is about. And through it, it allows you to also heal yourself in the future or your energetic future children. It's basically what they're allowing you to use programming through this meditation process. It's basically a meditation. It's a form of meditation that someone guides you through and allows you to reprogram your experience, reprogram your DNA, reprogram a thought pattern. Like what it did for my pap was every time he wanted to go smoke, then it had reprogrammed the thought pattern. So it didn't feel good to smoke anymore. It didn't necessarily make him feel bad, but it made him feel aware of the decision he was making, where before it was just such a like, I need this. He didn't any longer need it. What he needed was the power to make the decision. So I also have clients that have come to me with immense anxiety and they couldn't figure out why they were so anxious. So we typically how a session with me goes is I have a Reiki table, like a massage table, and a person will lay down if they're in person with me, or if I do it online, you find a comfortable space and you lay down and I guide you. And you're still conscious enough that you will speak back to me because I usually record it so that you can hear your own voice say what is happening in a later time. So I can give you that recording. I try to do that in person and online because I think it's so important to hear your own voice say what's happening so that you can remember that you witnessed that experience too, because you may not remember everything that happens in the moment because you're releasing your normal mind and going into your subconscious to really dive into why things bother you. And I kind of do this subliminally since I know the practice and the techniques. I subliminally do it when I lead chakra courses or other meditations too, so that it allows you to feel comfortable. It's, to me, hypnosis is just a much deeper form of meditation and allowing yourself to also communicate it with somebody and be willing to change the process. Where in meditation, a lot of people just let things go and they think they have to clear their mind completely. Hypnosis is the other side of meditation where you do have to think about the things, acknowledge them, and reprogram them.
Okay, so that's a lot of really great information. And I was writing down as you were talking because I have a couple questions in relation to hypnosis and quantum healing. The first one, before I use the quantum healing to sort of segue into lucid dreaming and astral projection, was do you think that some people maybe not necessarily don't believe in hypnotism, but maybe are more wary of it because they are afraid that it's manipulative or like it's a form of manipulation of the mind, that somebody else is getting in there and messing with their mind and the way that they think, as opposed to having that as somebody guiding them and having them do it?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely different forms of hypnosis, and it can definitely be manipulative, which I think is one of the reasons I don't necessarily advertise it as much as I will advertise like a soul session or doing a general meditation with me, because some people are afraid of that manipulation. Oftentimes, hypnosis is perceived, or not perceived, but shown in like movies as this kind of negative thing where typically a villain or somebody who wants to have control over somebody like waves this magic coin or this yo-yo of sorts in front of the person
Mhm.
until they just agree to whatever they say. And that's not necessarily what I see hypnosis as. To me, I will guide you to that point of kind of I guess you're very vulnerable. You're very vulnerable because that's why it's important to find somebody you trust, because I could say something or somebody could lead you down a path and kind of um, interrogate you into saying something and thinking a certain way, like you need something that you don't or anything like that. And I think it's really important to know the practitioner you're working with. That's why for me at first I didn't feel comfortable with finding a practitioner, and I did a lot of YouTube type hypnosis, and I studied it a lot on my own and even kind of dove into the training before I had personally been hypnotized, because I was so kind of hesitant about it as well. You know, like you hear all those things, you see those movies, and I'm like, I don't want someone to control my brain.
Yeah.
Um, but what actually got me into it, so I should explain this part too, is I started doing the training myself, and I still was kind of unsure about it. I had gotten a training online. The instructor was very kind of monotone, and I realized that was part of his technique and his way of sharing it and making you feel calm, where I am obviously very opposite. I am not monotone. I am energetic, and I had to find my calmness with it. And I still wasn't sure it was something I wanted to do. And then as soon as I said that in my mind, like one of the last times I had been a part of a Facebook challenge type thing that was going on, where you participate in the post each day and you have an opportunity to win. And one of my friends, distant friends, I should say more like a colleague that is part of Bring Me to Life, her name is Angie Sanchez. I believe she got married, and I cannot remember her last name right now, but I bet if you look up Angie Sanchez and quantum healing, you'll still find her. Um, and she was giving away a quantum healing technique session, like a 30-minute session with her. And as soon as I was ready to kind of walk away from hypnosis, because I wasn't sure about it either, I won the session. So I was like, okay, spirit, I see what you're doing here. I guess I'm meant to experience it before I make my own judgment. And I went through the experience, and it was actually right after I had had a very intense health situation. I had basically went through a miscarriage, and I was having all these questions of, was I worthy? Was I supposed to do this healing thing? Was I supposed to do anything that I had thought I was supposed to do? And through the quantum healing situation, she opened up a space for me to really witness what I was able to do for other people and why I was so scared of myself and why I was so scared to show up. And also explained to me through, and when I say she explained to me, she literally walked me through the meditation and then kept asking me like what I was seeing. And it held such a space of comfort. I started being able to process the emotions that I was having, and it allowed me to see why I had the health situation, why it wasn't the right time for that, why I did need to focus on being a healer and offering these services to others, so that I felt more sustainable, and felt more worthy of the expectations others had of me. Like it was almost, I was struggling with the same thing so many other people struggle with, where they think that they're not enough to show up for somebody else because they think they can't even show up for themselves. And going through the hypnosis completely turned that around and reminded me that I was enough and that everybody was enough. And by having that space held for me by somebody else after I had held it for so many people was such an experience, that I realized that hypnosis could help, and it didn't have to be scary. It didn't have to be somebody controlling me. She had not one time had tried to control my thought, control my feelings, or why I was in a certain spot. She just held space and she guided me. And it showed me how much hypnosis was really important to the healing process. And it didn't have to be this fearful programming that somebody else was in charge of. It was very much me and my experience, my own healing, and somebody witnessing that healing. She got to witness that change in me. And that was a powerful thing, to have somebody witness a change in you.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I think a lot of it too, I guess, is being open-minded to it. Because I don't know, does it affect whether or not, like, we had talked earlier about believing it and whatnot, but if you don't believe in it at all, does that affect the results that you may get, that you may receive?
I think so. I think that sometimes it takes practice. And that's why I think meditation is kind of the first place to start. If somebody has never meditated before, I don't necessarily try to work with them through hypnosis, because if they don't have the patience to even try meditation, there's no way they're going to allow themselves to be that vulnerable through a hypnosis process. Like, meditation was really scary for me at first because I did have so many thoughts all the time, and it forced me to acknowledge them. And hypnosis is kind of an even more powerful version of that. You really have to acknowledge everything you are, why you feel the way you do. And if you go into the past life version of it, because there's you can ask for somebody to help you with just in the now. I've worked with people who don't believe in past lives, and then I work with people who are like, I absolutely know this is not something from my lifetime. This has to be something from a previous lifetime. I need to know why I feel this way. So we'll dive into it. And in that, it gives you the ability to maybe see even how you passed away in a past life, or a family member that was mean to you now was also somebody that was very harmful to you then. And there's a lot of emotions tied to hypnosis. So I always ask people too to do it when they don't necessarily have to work the next day, if possible, so that they can have a full 24 hours to integrate and process the programming that they've just went through.
Do you think for going through having a hypnosis session, you said that you can do them online and you also have in-person offers. Do you think that the setting or the environment that you're in might affect it? Say I were to do an online session with you as opposed to in person. Do you think that potentially I wouldn't be able to be in the right mindset because I'm not somewhere, maybe I do feel comfortable, but there's still the distractions and I'm still in an environment where my energy is sort of set in the way that it is every single day. Like it's in that routine and it's not necessarily that I'm used to or ready to go into a hypnosis session at my house.
Right. So what I usually ask of people when they do a hypnosis session at home with me online is that they set up some sort of sacred space in their home. Even if you're doing it in your room where you hang out basically every day, doing something that makes it different, makes it memorable. Because what the experience is it's basically a ceremony of sorts, and you want to be able to remember it. So yes, you would lay on your bed, but maybe you would dedicate a special candle to that moment, or like you would light an incense so that every time then you lit that incense, you would have that kind of reminder of that moment. Oftentimes when I'll do it in person, I'll have some sort of sage or palo santo or spiritual incense of sorts, because what that does is it triggers memories within us. Every time I light sage, I can remember the first times I lit sage and how powerful that was for me to feel cleansed. And somebody went around and they blessed me and they made me spin around and I was in this cloud of sage. So every time I light sage, I think of that. And I'm not saying that's going to be the first time you light sage or you light this specific incense with this online session, but what it might be is it makes it something different so that your space is ceremonial. You're going through the steps of initiating your mind to be willing to take on a new journey, because I like to say you're not always the same person when you come out. So you want to be able to honor that and celebrate that, whether it's you went through a scary experience that you had to process to be able to grow, or you went through a beautiful experience, because they're not all scary. Sometimes people are, they're like getting married and they want to know if the person they're marrying is right. So we'll go into an experience and see if they felt a deeper connection, because a lot of times people are like, I feel like I've been connected to this person before. And I'm like, well, was that good or bad? And they're like, well, I don't know. So we'll do like a hypnosis session with it and we'll see if they've had or feel like they've had any lifetimes with them. And they'll come out of it real happy, like, oh, I saw my wedding then and it was so beautiful. And now I want to incorporate this thing and that thing. And it's like this magical experience. So you're always going to come out of it a little bit different than you went into it. And you want to celebrate that shift, because it shows that you've went into it willing to learn, whether that's you walking into my healing room and having that experience in the present, like the presence of me, my crystals, and my tools, or walking into your bedroom or your sacred room and you've set a special crystal grid up, or you have a certain crystal you want to meditate with, or a certain candle. Like, yes, to answer your main question, it can be distracting. I make people turn their phone off if they can, or put it on silent, because that's the biggest distraction I've had is people just, they can't. And if they have kids, when possible, right now we're not able to necessarily just take people and go anywhere. But when possible, I ask them to dedicate quiet time to it because they don't want to be distracted. So the location can matter, but it's really up to you, no matter whether you're coming or going, to make that special and memorable for you too.
Okay. That was something I'd been wondering for a while because I had seen elsewhere too online Reiki sessions and other quantum healing sessions. But with quantum healing, I did say that there was another question I had about it that sort of led into astral projection and lucid dreaming. So with that, you had mentioned that quantum healing sort of mingles in with space and time and dealing with space and time. And I know that that's sort of something that astral projection does as well. So I guess my question is sort of how quantum healing can tie into astral projection, because it sounds as if connecting through space and time is similar to connecting through space and time in dreaming or in meditation through astral projection, and having that type of connection or interaction through that field or wherever that is.
It's actually a beautiful connection that I hadn't thought as deeply about, because when we're going through a hypnosis experience or a past life experience, you are usually, not always, some people, I should say, will astral project. Some people will be in the experience kind of like a first person point of view, like they're seeing it from their eyes as the body of their past life. Like, I'll tell them to look down, like, what do you see? Some people don't see anything. They're like, well, I'm above it. And some people are in it. So different people have different perspectives of it. But those that are above it are kind of astral traveling. They're going to a different timeline and visualizing it from above. And I like to kind of think of astral projection sometimes as, some people might not agree with this, but this ability to view as if God were viewing it, because you're above it. And you don't always have the ability to alter it in any way. Usually you don't. You're just witnessing it. So you get to have the God's eye witness view of an experience in time or space. Sometimes when things aren't as chaotic as they are in the moment that we're recording them, because we're in the middle of a global shift in experience, I've been telling people recently to not necessarily time travel into the future. If you're going to time travel, go into your past right now and heal the things that need healed, so that as we go into the new world, you're going into it feeling confident. But in some situations, people have this ability to time travel in a way, mentally, energetically, into the future and visualize what their life could be like if they choose a certain timeline. And that's what I use astral projection for. In my sleep states or in my personal meditations, I will allow myself to kind of travel into different perspectives of time and just visualize it from above. I've done this when I wanted to re-witness experiences with my mother, who I lost when I was really young. Before I go to bed, I will kind of meditate on wanting to visit that experience. And I'll do kind of a gentle meditation, and I will breathe as deeply as I can until I eventually fall asleep. And it doesn't always work. It definitely took a little bit more practice. When I was younger, it would kind of naturally happen, and I didn't have as much control over it. And I think that's how most people start, is they don't really have control over it. It's just this thing that happens, and they're kind of like flying around in this spirit body, like, what's going on here? And I think that's kind of how CeeLo started it. And my partner, really dove into astral projection and lucid dreaming pretty heavily there for a while. But for me, it's a way to experience and heal things. So like when I would go back and see the times with my mom, there were some times that I would throw a total like toddler tantrum, and I would kind of witness that from an adult perspective, that like, well, why was I having that tantrum? And it's like, oh, I was feeling like my needs weren't met, or I wasn't getting the attention that I wanted, or this, that, or the other. And it gave me the ability to see that from an overview perspective so that I could heal that action in myself as an older version of me, but also send my younger self love. Have you ever been in a meditation where you've probably been in a meditation with me where I've instructed you to send your younger self love?
Yeah.
Did you feel any sort of feelings after that? Like, for me, I feel lighter when I do that. It's like this sense of, oh, I witnessed that. Even if my mom didn't witness that in the moment, I witnessed it. So the experience had validation and served a purpose.
I definitely know that a lot of my memories in my past, I don't know what it is. It's definitely something I want to dive in deeper in the future, but I know that a lot of my past just seems kind of foggy. There's bits and pieces that I remember, or people will, it's almost like I have to be reminded of what happened for somebody to spark a memory, as opposed to if somebody asks, like, oh, so what were you like as a kid? And I'm just sort of the generic fun. I know I like to swim and climb trees, but there's not really too many memories that pop out. But I also know, through that meditation you mentioned about sending your younger self love, I noticed that I have a hard time envisioning my younger self sometimes.
Mm.
So I also noticed that I'll go through stages of myself when I was younger, even if like younger was just a year ago to me. So I'll go through sending it to this energy that I felt was me whenever I was maybe 5 years old, and then through different stages of my life. And I know sometimes either I feel lighter, I feel bubbly and happy, and other times I notice that through these self-love meditations, I end up crying while I'm doing meditation. And I think it's really interesting because I could go into the meditation feeling fine, and then halfway into the meditation, I'm either sitting or laying there and I'm crying, and I don't understand why, but I can feel it. I feel it in my heart center, my chakra, my heart, and it's just so interesting to be able to have that reaction, to feel either really happy or feel confused and either sad but also crying from relief. So I think there's a lot of things that can happen through that, but I definitely think self-love meditations and even sending love to other people through meditation is really, really powerful.
Definitely. So I want to ask you what your experience is with astral travel, but first I want to give you just a quick tidbit of something that helped me with the acknowledging my younger self type energy. Is I found pictures of my younger self, whether those were pictures of me happy or sad or whatever, and I keep a couple of them close by. And I used to think it was kind of weird that I had pictures of myself in my bedroom, like near my vanity, but I look at them as a reminder when I'm like curling my hair or getting ready for an event or whatever. And it's a reminder of how far I've come. But I also get to look into not necessarily the eyes, but kind of the eyes, the essence, the energy of the picture of myself in that moment. And sometimes a memory will pop up, or a thought will pop up, or a feeling of how I may have felt in that moment. And actually, I only have like 3 or 4 pictures. I don't have a whole lot of pictures from when I was younger because I lost both my parents. I moved homes over and over and over. So I don't have a whole lot of that kind of like memorabilia. But the ones I do have were really important. And I do still have at least some sort of copy, whether it's a yearbook or not, a photo of all of my different years of school, or almost all of them. And every so often, I will make kind of a meditation, a personal kind of meditation of it, to sit down and to look at those. I'll look at each yearbook and I'll look at this little album I put together of myself to just remember those feelings, whether they were the sadness of losing a parent, or they were the anger of having to move over and over, or the joy of the first time I wrote this like essay in like the 5th grade or something and I got chosen out of my class. Like, those memories, they weren't necessarily things that stuck out to me until I looked back at those pictures and I was like, wow, that is why I'm inspired to do what I do. A lot of it were kind of dark and sad feelings at first, and it pushed me to want to go down my healing path. And to, one, be able to heal that younger child that felt so hurt and broken, but two, to be able to show others that it's possible, and to hopefully help somebody else not have to feel the same kind of feelings I had that made me push my experience away. Because and in no way am I judging, but it sounds like you're pushing away the experience, and I think it's really important for you to acknowledge what's made you want to go down this awakening healing journey. So I'm excited for you to really dive into it. And I have to say that I didn't really start diving into it until my like earlier 20s either. So you're right. You're not behind. Let's just say you don't feel like you're ever behind. You're right where you need to be, no matter if you're somebody else listening to this podcast and you're in your 50s or 60s going through it. Like, you're right where you need to be in that moment.
I definitely think sometimes too it's hard for people to realize we are where we need to be. But also, you mentioned with the photographs, I think I had gone through my attic and I found a bunch of objects from whenever I was younger, and there's just I could feel the history behind them, and I could feel the attachment that I had to them. And there's a bunch of objects and even just memories I have of objects, and maybe not remembering why they were so important to me, but knowing and feeling how important they were to me. And I think it's so interesting because even though it's something that's material, and I know in a lot of different spiritualities you hear how you need to let go of materialism, you need to ascend that to be able to reach this higher state, this higher awareness, this higher self. But I think it's so important to find a balance between having an attachment to material objects and also being able to let go of that and also interpret why you have the attachment, because I think through that attachment is how we learn and how we experience, and that's how we're going to be able to figure out how to move on and how to let go. And I don't think that without those objects, without being attached to this earth materially, we wouldn't be able to transcend, because we wouldn't have the tools and we wouldn't be able to recognize why we should be reaching for a higher sort of purpose, I guess. But yeah.
I love it. No, it's magical. You're very right. Like, the holding on to many objects can be very um, heavy. It's very heavy to have many things that you feel you can't part with because you'll lose the memory of them. And I think that's why I really love photographs more than even objects. I will say um, I have a stuffed animal that I took with me through the like 10 or more homes that I traveled through as a child, and it's like the one object that I've had basically my whole life. And it obviously doesn't hold the same sentimental value as it did when I was a child. It was my safety. It was my, I'll always have this thing. This thing belongs to me. And now I have that object and I look at it, and if someone took it from me, I would be sad, but I'll forever have the memory of that object. Like, it's not going to devastate me, where it might really would devastate some other people who are really attached to the material thing. Now, I'm not saying there's not material things that I would be devastated if somebody took from me. My first car I had for 10 years, and man, that was an emotional experience to let go of my first car, and knowing how many memories I had, how many places it had taken me, how much growth and experience. And it was like the first real big thing that was mine, and it could take me anywhere. And that was a powerful thing. And I recently just got rid of it, to be honest. And what brought me joy was knowing that it was going to another 16-year-old girl, and it was going to have its own lifetime. So that was a really cool experience, to let go of a material object and knowing that it can serve somebody else joy. So I like to donate things and barter things and release things, rather than throw things away, because objects hold energy. And that's why, even if you don't remember the exact memories as to why they were important, you feel that importance, that energy, that essence in them. That's why people pass down heirlooms, and it's like the power of holding like a watch or a necklace that your great grandma or somebody had, and just being like, this has seen some shit. Like, just to know like what those, like my teddy bear that I still have, like, it's seen some shit, dude. Like, those objects hold that energy too. So as much as it brings me comfort, I think about the nights that I clutched onto it for dear life, hoping that I would wake up in a different reality. Like, objects hold a lot of just energy and essence to them. So that's why, and especially
Yeah.
photographs, and they don't take up much space. So I think photographs are important, especially with the digital world, and being able to like email them to yourself so you can hopefully have them for as long as the internet exists. I get what you're saying, though. It's important to not attach to things so we can transcend.
Mhm.
And I obviously can't take that teddy bear with me when I pass on, but I'll definitely have the memory somewhere in spirit, and hopefully my future self will travel back into quantum time to experience the comfort that it brought me, just those
Yeah.
little things. But while you're here and we're talking about astral travel, what is your experience with it as somebody who's just getting into kind of like their awakening and their spiritual travel? What's your vibe on it?
I am super excited to learn more and actually begin to astral travel. And I may have done it before just without my knowing. So I want to be able to get to the point to where I make the step to lucid dream first. That way I am more aware and I know when I'm doing it and I can control where it is that I go or maybe who it is that I visit, because I know that my dreams, they've always been very vivid, but I've never been able to control them. So I've never been able to have lucid dreams. And I usually always remember the ones that I have. Usually I can remember the majority of them too, since we have series of dreams in each night. So I definitely want to be able to control that and see where it'll take me. But I think just being able to get to that part's been a little bit challenging, but I guess meditation is definitely the first step in being able to become aware that I'm sleeping and dreaming
Mm-hmm.
when I'm doing that.
What's kind of your drive for wanting to do it?
I'm not quite sure. I think part of it is because I definitely do feel a connection, and I feel like there are messages that I can receive and people that I can visit and potentially help through that,
Mm.
because I don't have any desired location that I feel I need to be at, but I also feel like it's something that I want to be able to do because there's a purpose for it. Maybe not right now, but definitely in the future. There's something there that I can find. And maybe it's just being able to have the ability to do that and know whether or not it's proving myself, or just know that there's that part of me that I can tap into and be more aware of myself through that.
I love it. I think what's going to be a good step for you is just like really harnessing in that why and that kind of the method. So for me, what helped with my lucid dreaming was my why was I wanted to connect with my mom. I wanted to see her. I wanted to help her. I wanted to be able to witness her. So that gave me kind of a stone, or like not a stone, but like a stepping stone, I guess is what I was getting at with that. Like it gave me a motivation to want. And it also gave me like a finish line, not necessarily a finish line, I guess, but like I had accomplished it. If you don't know necessarily where you want to go or what you want to do with it, you're not going to know really if you have accomplished it. Does
I
that make
like that.
sense?
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah,
you don't.
especially with goals in general, being able to know where you're going. So how I know that I had spoken with your partner Simon and asked about how to actually start
Mhm.
to astral travel or lucid dream. And I didn't know if you had any other tips that you'd like to share now. That way everybody
Yeah,
else can hear about them as well.
like I said, set an intention. Like, what's your intention for traveling? And when I think the best way to do it is either through meditation or even like going to sleep. Most people say they lucid dream and astral travel kind of simultaneously because they realize they're asleep and then they want to visit someone or something. For some people, it's just they want the ability to travel. My grandma told me right before she passed away that she was flying in her dreams all the time, and she was visiting places. And I'm like, Grandma, you're astral traveling? Like, what? She's like, well, I never got to travel, and I don't really like traveling, but I like seeing new places. So she was astral traveling in her dream and going to places like the pyramids and like Germany and Australia. Like, she was going to these different countries she had never been, but at least she firmly believed that that's where she was viewing. And she said she was up above it and looking at it. So her intention was to experience these places without having to leave the comfort of her bed. And if that's all it is for you, you don't have to help people or do anything. You can fly around the world, but just give yourself the power and the intention to do that, and be willing to allow your spirit to do so without fear. I think a lot of people, their spirit is afraid. It's afraid to leave this body because it doesn't know how to get back. But sometimes I tell people to visualize like a silver string or the silver lining of thread that attaches you to your physical body. And as you go to sleep, put on your meditation music or your fan or whatever it is that helps you sleep, and set that intention of, okay, I would really like to meet with my mom in my dream, or I would really like to go visit, I don't know, where's someplace you'd like to visit?
Ireland.
I would really like to go visit Ireland in my dream. And maybe there's a specific, like I'm trying to think if I know of anything major in Ireland, but like some sort of monument there that is of interest to you. For me, I really wanted to see the Eiffel Tower. I wanted to like astral travel the Eiffel Tower, and I did this meditation. It's better for me to explain from my own example, I guess. But I wanted to do the meditation, and I wanted to see the Eiffel Tower, and that gave me like again another finish line. Like once I had made it to the Eiffel Tower, then I had known that I had accomplished my mission in the travel. So I meditated and I breathed as deeply as I could, and I didn't do it on the first night. The first like maybe week I didn't do it, and it was kind of just a mission I had set upon myself. And I took the breaths as deeply as I could, and eventually I would fall asleep. And sometimes I would travel like astrally and just kind of be flying around above things. But sometimes I didn't have control of the dreams at all, and they definitely weren't the Eiffel Tower. But then I hit that finish line, and I was at the Eiffel Tower, and I was spinning, and there were pink, like just these pink like blossoms everywhere around me and just flowing around me, and there were people. And I went from like seeing it from above and seeing myself spinning, and I was so excited that I had made it in the dream that I kind of like sucked my soul into the dream, and I felt it. I like felt that I was there. And I'm not saying that this is going to happen for everybody. Have no expectation that this exact kind of experience is going to happen for you, but all I can explain is from my own experience. And what it felt like for me was just magical. And when I had hit the finish line, I was like, I did it. And I have to say that I got so excited that I sucked myself right out of it. And I came back and I woke up, and I think I was gasping a little bit. And I was like, damn, that was quick, but I did it. And it was like such a powerful like realization, because it's even, and some people are like, well, you could go anywhere in a dream. Like, who's to say that that was astral traveling? That was just a dream. Well, for me, it was astral traveling. I was there. I had set an intention. I had a goal, and I had made it. And I got to witness it. And those flowers were beautiful. And it's now a happy space for me when I need it. I just close my eyes and I feel the air of me just spinning in front of the Eiffel Tower with flowers blowing everywhere.
That's amazing. That
Set a goal.
was beautiful. Yeah. So whenever you astral travel, do you see it from a first person perspective? Because I know you also had mentioned about like God's view, also like the idea of seeing over thing, or like the bird's eye view
Right.
of almost third person, I guess, too. Because I notice sometimes if I meditate and we're doing a visualization, going through a step-by-step visualization,
Mm-hmm.
I'll see myself. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, it's not like I'm in my body. It's like I'm looking at myself.
Yeah, you're witnessing,
So it's, yeah, I'm
almost like a
witnessing
sim.
myself.
Like, have you ever
Yeah,
played Sims?
exactly.
I like to say that God and our higher self is the person playing our sim. And I don't know how much I feel about simulation theory. I've went down some wormholes there, um, but when you astral travel, it really is. It's like you're playing Sims and you're witnessing it. And that's like with the Eiffel Tower thing. Like when I first did it, I was above it. I was seeing me from a bird's eye view as if I were God, and I had put my character, my sim character, and plopped her in front of the Eiffel Tower and told her to spin in celebration. Like it was like I was watching all of that happen, because as I was seeing it from above, at first it was just kind of like me walking into this like image of the Eiffel Tower, and I could feel my excitement, but I was still above me, witnessing me. And me as in like the character of what I look like. But if I would have looked at myself in the astral, like if I would have tried to look at my hand and me below, I don't think I could have seen my hand. I was the essence of me experiencing what I looked like below. But then when I got so excited, I wanted to feel it. Like the person that was witnessing me, that energy, my higher self energy, I wanted to feel it. So I grabbed my silver thread from my physical body in my bed, and I purposely threw it into the body. I think I was trying to see if I could teleport. Honestly, I was like, maybe if I grab this, if I grab this thread from my physical body at home and throw it into this Paris body, maybe I'll figure out teleportation. You know, we have high hopes for things. But what it did was it gave me the ability to feel it. And it changed for me just witnessing my excitement and seeing me spinning in front of the Eiffel Tower too. I felt it. I felt like I felt the air in my hair and the petals like brushing against me as they were blowing in the wind too. And it was like I went from seeing it in that third person God bird eye view into I saw the flowers coming into my own eyes. I could then look at my hands. And I feel like I even like experienced the essence of wanting my partner there. And I didn't necessarily see CeeLo there, but I felt what it would be like if I had him there with me so that he could witness it. And then I realized too that that was the feeling of wanting somebody to witness that. And I had the ability to witness it as my own kind of God's eye view essence. And it was just such a powerful thing. But once I realized all of it and I was like, wow, I did it. I'm not above it anymore. I'm in it. Did I teleport? I instantly like shot my spirit right back to bed, and I like sat straight up like, whoa. So yeah, it can be multiple different perspectives. You can be flying, you can be teleporting, you can be seeing it as like a first person video game. But usually for me, it starts out as kind of like I'm playing Sims. Like I threw my character into this new world and I'm witnessing it from behind the screen.
So I know we've been going for a little bit, but I did have another question that was in relation to meditation and maybe could be with dreaming as well. I can see how it could tie in.
Okay.
And going through guided meditations, I did one the other night it was probably like a week or so ago during the full moon. And I actually did Sailor Moon's full moon guided meditation. And this has happened before. And I'm not sure what it means, what it could mean, but so we go through the whole like winding down, you start to become aware of your breath, and then maybe 30 seconds into more of the visualization and the meditation, I either fell asleep, I blacked out, don't remember anything. And it would have been fine, like, oh, I just fell asleep. However, I woke up or came to as he was saying, now slowly start to bring yourself back. And that's what made me most curious, because it wasn't just like I fell asleep and I woke up the next morning. It was like, man, I missed meditation. I fell asleep at the beginning of it. Must have just needed the rest. I woke up as he said to come back, and I don't remember anything in between, just that I blacked out after I started to become aware of my breath and he started to lead us into the meditation. And then I came back right as he said to come back. So I don't know what that could mean. And I know that some people also black out in dreams, like they don't remember their dreams either. So I don't know where that ties in.
That happens to me a lot, especially when were you doing the meditation before bed or were you doing it as a ceremony?
I was actually, I think that one, I was lying in bed.
Okay.
So I wanted to do the meditation before bed so that I could maybe try to lucid dream or have dreams geared towards receiving messages. So maybe I blacked out when I received a message in the meditation.
That is kind of where I was going to go with it. It's likely that your subconscious needed to take the lead in your present consciousness. I know there's a better term for that. I'll have to think of it. But like your present mind needed to clock out for a moment. It needed to have the ability to just release and kind of integrate. Because I mean, as somebody who does what I call downloading through the day, there'll be a time where I'll sit down at my computer and I will kind of space out I don't necessarily black out because I feel like I still can see in front of me, or I would be more afraid. I've had times where I've blacked out for sure, but it's like I just kind of stop or I freeze, and it just feels like there's some sort of energy integrating around me. But even if like CeeLo or somebody's around me, or there's like I like to listen to lots of podcasts. That's why I make podcasts. I listen to lots of podcasts, and I'll be listening to a podcast, and it's like everything around me just kind of goes silent. And I'm like, I did not personally witness whatever the last 10 minutes of that podcast or movie or whatever it was I was watching was. I know my avatar, my physical presence was there. Like for your meditation, your physical presence was there, but your mental presence was on a different kind of timeline for that moment. And sometimes I'll go back and I'll restart maybe the podcast or the meditation or whatever it is I'm doing, but sometimes I won't, and I'll take it as whatever was said was needed for my subconscious mind. It's not something that my physical, in this present moment essence needed to witness or understand, and just kind of allow my higher self to take the lead. I'm not sure if that actually answered your question, but I did my best there.
I think so. Is there, are there any other reasons that could happen? Or do you think maybe if I went back through and did the meditation again, that that might be likely to happen, or maybe I would receive what I was supposed to?
It might would trigger it. I'd highly suggest trying it again and seeing what you get out of it. I guess it really depends on how you felt after it too, because it seems like you felt frustrated that you missed the experience.
Yeah, I think I was more confused. Like it was almost like you wake up or you just come out of water, you're like, what just, why, what just happened? That was really weird sort of feeling.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So Silo, when we had the center, he would do meditations every Tuesday, and we would go to the center. So I wasn't in my normal like meditation space, like my home or anything, my bed, and we would go, and I sometimes it was hard for me to get into the meditation because I felt like I was in like a leadership position. I was there with him to help and hold space, make sure everybody else was okay. So it was hard for me to meditate. But then there were other times I would lie down. I prefer meditating lying down too, personally, but that makes it easier to fall asleep. My other suggestion would be if you're afraid you're going to fall asleep and have the experience that you're having, try sitting up. It's a little harder to have the blackout experience, I found. But I personally like to lay down too. And I would find that I would do my best to follow the meditation guidance, but would often also kind of wake up at the end. And it would be like I had just gotten really into that meditative uh, experience, it felt like. And then it was just over. And I'm like, did it take me the whole meditation to get to this point? Or did I tap out? Like, but I think it's just you're triggering that relaxation portion, and you're really getting into kind of the essence of meditation where you legitimately turned everything off to the point that it was just you were one with the energy of not darkness but like blackness,
Just
the
sort of
everything.
there.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
everything and nothing. You were experiencing everything and nothing, so much so that you don't even have necessarily a memory of it. And you don't have to
Yeah.
remember every word that he said. There's something about his meditative voice too that I think does that to people.
Yeah.
Because I would wake up too and be like, did I even just like benefit from this? Now I feel kind of sleepy, but I wasn't actually asleep because I heard the end. And I,
Yeah. And it's so weird because whenever you sleep, sometimes you just, if people have a dreamless sleep, you wake up, you feel well rested. You knew you were asleep, even though you can't always feel you're sleeping while you're sleeping, but you knew you were sleeping.
Mhm.
Like you have that feeling. And it was that blackout where I didn't feel anything. I didn't think of anything. It didn't, and whenever I came to, it wasn't like time passed. It was just almost like I blinked and there was nothing in between there. And when I came to, I was laying in bed and just that's what happened.
The next day or after the experience, did you feel any sort of lighter or anything at all? Do you know?
Maybe? I don't really remember.
Next time that happens to you, kind of before you get upset that you feel like you missed the experience, just analyze how you feel. Like you said, like, do you feel refreshed? Did you feel exhausted? Did you feel like you just downloaded something that you haven't quite unpacked yet? Like, before getting frustrated that you feel like you missed the meditation and the purpose, allow yourself to really integrate the purpose, because it's kind of like an idea of inspiration or creativity. If you worry so much about making the experience perfect, you lose that idea or that inspiration. So release the fear and worry of not reaching that potential high or this goal, and just allow whatever it was to be. But I think we just unpacked that when that happens, you've reached the essence of meditation and you've just let everything go and fully taken upon the guidance of who's instructing you.
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful. I feel like I learned something today too. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yay! This is why I love conversating with you. You teach me things and you allow me to just kind of channel, because I noticed that when I answer questions for you, yeah, I babble a lot, but sometimes it's just like what spirit wants to channel through me. So I'm really grateful that you decided to do this experience with me and hold space for both of us. Did you have fun here today, or do you have any other questions? I don't want to hold you up all day either.
Oh, I always have questions, but this was really great. I had a great time and a lot of really awesome content. I can't wait to hear how this comes out. I'm super excited.
Yay! Well, for those that are listening, I ask for you to give us a follow, give us a share. If there was anything that really sparked your interest, let us know. Moony and I are both in my group on Facebook, which is Light Up Your Life. With Shannon and Shine, you can start a conversation, hit us up there. We're also in the Bring Me to Life community, which are two great places you can find more high vibe people that are on this journey, just trying to figure things out one question at a time.
Yeah.
So for those listening, I hope you stay awake and shine on always. Do you want to say bye?
Bye.
All right, so thanks for listening. That was an episode with my good friend Moony, and I am really looking forward to having her on more episodes of Awakening with the Girls. Again, I'm just going to be taking this podcast in a new direction, where I am so excited to have a lineup of amazing high vibe females to share their story with you and their experience with you in a safe space for us all to just talk about things that we're going through, things that happened that may have pushed us into our journey of the awakening, spirituality, magic, astral travel, witchcraft, whatever. The awakening can mean so many things for so many people, but for one thing I realized is that it made a lot of us feel really crazy and really alone. So Awakening with the Girls is now your safe haven to just wake up and shine on with us and learn about things that brings your heart excitement, inspiration, joy, or maybe even just helps you shift through some emotions and things that you're working through. Regardless, I hope you got some sort of inspirational content out of this, and I really look forward to you tuning in to new episodes. If you need more high vibe content, please remember to check out bringmetolife.com with the number 2. The Bring Me to Life Network is an amazing community full of all kinds of people that are just looking to connect, looking to find ways to inspire others. So join us in the Bring Me to Life community on Facebook. And until next time, stay awake, shine on always. Bye.